If he was former alumni, he wouldn't be talking about athletes the way he's talking about athletes.
Okay.
So there you go. Right off the rip.
Hello, world. Welcome back to Charge the Game Pod.
Woo! Right from the rip.
I told him and he said it. He said he's
Brandon Marshall says Shannon Sharpe is whack. He wouldn't be talking about athletes the way he's talking about it if he was down. He was one of those real ones. Now, Brandon Marshall was very vocal about Stephen A. and all that, but he really was on Shannon Sharpe. More than Skip Bayless. More than anybody, he really had disdain for Shannon Sharpe. You could tell in his delivery, you could tell in his output, you could tell in everything he was saying. In the interview, he was coming for Shannon.
That's former alumni. No, if he was former alumni, he wouldn't be talking about athletes the way he's talking about athletes. Okay.
Woo! He was saucy, man. Tell him how you really feel, Brandon. Now, here's the thing about Brandon Marshall. Shannon Sharpe was one of the main guys that fought for guys like y'all. That's one thing. And if you felt this way about Shannon Sharpe, you was at Fox Sports 1. You took Chris Carter's spot. You was on that show. First things first. With Nick Wright. Uh-oh. You was on that show with Nick Wright. So before Shannon turned into this guy, before Shannon Sharpe turned into the doggone mummy, or Frankenstein, Black Frankenstein, before he turned into that, Shannon Sharpe was one of the guys that used to take up for you. So my thing, Brandon, is it's kind of hypocritical when you sitting up there with Nick Wright on the show on First Things First on Fox Sports 1. That's basically another undisputed, another First Take show early in the morning. You was on there. So if you complaining about what Shannon Sharpe is doing, you want to talk about Nick Wright? Funny you ain't mentioned him. Because he was worse. He was like a hack and then an out of the blue Mahomes fan, a Kobe guy who switched over to a LeBron guy because it was favorable to his argument. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's exactly the point. Oh, and why was it exactly the point? Because a lot of you guys don't understand what the situation had dignified and what was laid out. It's a direct shot. the stuff he was saying. It made no sense. Charles from the Dreamers Pro put it out there, and his take was excellent.
Former alumni. And if he was former alumni, he wouldn't be talking about athletes the way he's talking about athletes. He talking like he was trained to be a ABC analyst. Yeah. It's like there's a responsibility that you have. Like, first off, I'll say this amazing career, and to me, I think he's probably he's probably top 3 when it comes to personalities right now on television.
Yep.
He hit a stride. When he started pulling out the Black and Miles and the Hennessy on FS1, he found it, right? And he became America's uncle. So shout out to him there. What I don't vibe with is when you tear down your fellow, athlete. There's a way to critique them. It's like, and you clout chasing, you talking about Russell Wilson a year later on some other things. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like your platform's too big for you to go chase that.
Yeah.
And I just don't vibe with that.
I was watching the interview you did with Stephen A. Smith, and I like what he said about that, because obviously he catches all the flack for what he says and how he says. He's a wordsmith. He's go. Yeah, but he
Now, here's the thing, Brandon Marshall. See, Brandon Marshall is basically in 2 lanes. He wants to be the player that represents and stands for all the what's positive in the league and all these different things, but he's too political. And he's like a liberal. And that's the problem with Brandon. He turns a blind eye and don't see when the other people in front of him who he's aligned himself with do the same damn thing. You had Stephen A. Smith sitting right there on your show, and you interviewing and talking with him, and everything's fine and gravy. And you think Stephen A. Smith don't tear down athletes? You think Shannon Sharpe tear down more athletes than Stephen A. Smith? After what he said about Kyrie Irving, after what he did, completely try to obliterate people's contracts, you got a problem with Shannon Sharpe, but not Stephen A. Smith. Come on. Stephen sat right on your couch. You worked at Fox Sports 1. You were the lead-in show for his show. And you sat there with Nick Wright, who sat there and just abused Kobe Bryant to try to justify LeBron James. You sat there, did that show. That's right, Ty. We know what the real problem is. Ty know, I know, the whole world know. You mad that Ocho and Shannon Sharpe got the show Nightcap and it's successful. That's why you're mad. That's why you're picking on Shannon Sharpe and throwing his name out there. Because you hurt. You hurt. He don't want to do the show with you. You mad. He don't want to do the show with you. And he was like, man, the logistics was too much. He couldn't do it. They never talked bad about you or nothing. But the first chance you get, you had to come out and talk about him. So hopefully they talk about you on Nightcap. See, Brandon Marshall, you wear them two shirts. And this is why I never trusted you. When you were here playing for the Chicago Bears, and you went out to the Cubby Bear, right, with your then girlfriend, and she was mad that she wanted to go back to California and not stay here the whole week, and you were freaking out at the bar. And everybody was like, dude, calm down. The Cubby Bear used to be right around the corner, dog. I'm still close. Memory ain't bad, bro. And you was freaking out. And what did the teammates tell you? Bro. It ain't even that serious. You freaking out over nothing. She's just going there because she's got business. She's coming back. She ain't leaving you. She's just going there. You needed time off the field for mental stress because your girl did not want to stay the whole week. She wanted to fly back to California to do some work. And I said, this dude is mentally screwed up. And I said that then, not knowing you came out and start saying, I suffer from mental, I'm in therapy, I'm getting help, I'm doing all of these different things. Oh yeah, it was all over the place. The field, everything. Yeah. So he started taking classes because of what he did before with domestic violence. I mean, DV, right? So we already know where he went and what type of rage he would get to and what he used to do and how he would just blow up. And he did that with the Bears, and the Bears silently let him go. See, Brandon Marshall got to the point where no team would sign him anymore. They didn't want to deal with that. So him as a player, Shannon Sharpe used to defend these guys constantly. Ray Lewis used to defend these guys constantly and give you the player's perspective. Now, I'm not sitting here saying Shannon Sharpe is 100% right in the situation and what he do. Sometimes in the way he handled things, like the way he handled Kwame Brown, that was ridiculous. He was doing that for LeBron. Because he didn't feel that way. Because when he was on his show, Club Shay Shay, he said the exact opposite about Kwame Brown, saying how he wasn't a bust. Now all of a sudden he's a joke. How? You see what I'm saying? Those are the type of people that talk sideways about you if you're not aligned with them. You got to be aligned with them in order for you to talk that and they leave you alone. That's why I don't really stand with Brandon Marshall. Don't hate the guy. Makes a lot of good points. But I can't stand with him because he has no code. He will silence that code when it goes against the pay line. Like, oh, I can't. I'm talking bad about him, but your guy's doing the same thing. So if your guy standing right next to you is doing the same thing as the guy you complaining about, then what you complaining for? You should be shutting up. Because you can't stand right next to Stephen A. Smith and then talk bad about Shannon Sharpe. When this dude behind you is 10 times worse. You can't stand next to Nick Wright and then talk about Shannon Sharpe. When Nick Wright has done everything you just said about Shannon Sharpe 10 times worse. So I can't honor that when we know what this is about. You mad. You are mad over Ocho. You're mad over Ocho. Ocho Cinco left you and went over there and made a show with Shannon Sharpe and it's successful. You're mad. Ain't nobody mad over you about the split. He's still talking about I am athlete. He's still talking about I am athlete. And the breakup with the guys that went over to the pivot. How long ago it's been, bruh? How long has it been? I'm like, damn, dog, that's the Pivot podcast. I'm thinking like that's been out now for some years, dog. Now, he's saying all the guys donated the money and put up and he said what they put up. Yeah, they put up $25,000 a piece, and he ended up his cost kept increasing. So why am I gonna give y'all the 25% that I said I was gonna give y'all? Now I want to change the deal. You see how that worked? You see how that worked now, right? Why should I do that for you when I can do this for me? Plus, my cost is going to increase. You knew that going in. Or if you didn't, it is what it is. It's the same thing with Joe Budden. I told y'all that. It's the same thing with Joe Budden. All those guys paid what you asked them to pay. You gave them part ownership into the company, into the brand. So now he realizes how expensive it's going to be. You're flying in guests, you paying these people to appear on the show. So you got to put them in hotels. You got to get plane flights. So after about a couple of years, you're going to be down a couple M's. But now it was $150,000 actually what he was down. He was down $150,000. They donated their $25,000. And then they're in there, okay, we're going to get sponsorships and do what it is that we're going to do. They made a deal. Well, Brandon wanted to make a deal to jump ship and go with this other company. They weren't with it. They saying, hey, this is going to cut into us and what we supposed to be getting. And now here's where the problems lie. Is Brandon feels like I'm doing X, Y, and Z and this, and you guys all getting 25%, and y'all just doing nothing. They was like, we doing what we said we were gonna do. X, Y, and Z. They looking at the paperwork, and Brandon is changing the rules as it goes along. Same thing Joe Budden did. He gave those guys equity in the company when there was no equity. Now that there's equity in the company, those guys are part owners, and they're gonna get a lot of money. And Joe's like, hey, I'm doing all this work. This is me. And it's like, well, bro, we was here when it got built, and we got equity. It's in our contract. So Joe would have to pay them significantly a lot of money. He didn't want to do that. He wasn't comfortable with that. So he wanted to blow it up and get those guys out of there, accept some new contracts. Why would somebody go and accept a contract that's gonna make them employees when they were part owners? Like, how you even gonna swing that to somebody? So that became the narrative, and that ruined the whole friendship between all those guys. And they walked away like they could have sued, went to court, and got millions out of Joe. Millions. They walked. Rory and Mo walked. And that was the best thing Joe could have ever asked for, because those guys left millions on the table and walked away and started their own thing. Now, we all got to say there's differences in people's opinions, different factors, and there's a lot of people that don't Yeah, it's just a certain level of respect. Because the Pivot podcast had Gilly the Kid on it. And Ryan Clark wasn't a part of I Am Radio. He wasn't a part of that at all. He just knew I can put this together with my brothers. And you've seen the Pivot podcast has had nothing but success. There's no toxicity around. I felt last time it was too many cooks in the kitchen or I Am Athlete, and I didn't know how they would be able to sustain the personalities and the attitudes and whatever and what have you. You know what I'm saying? So I felt it was my need to express to Brandon and other people who are just like Brandon, who like him. There's no problem. Brandon just he tries to appease certain people, but those people who he feel got the keys, he let them slide. Like, I ain't gonna say that about Stephen A. Smith, because Stephen A. Smith is one of the guys who's at the top. So I can't talk about the guys that's at the top of this thing that's been, ruining players' contracts and putting people in different mental spaces. I can't talk about him. A guy who don't know the X and O's, the same thing you was talking about. They don't know the X and O's, and that's Stephen A. He don't know what's going on. But yet and still, the same guy you talking about is right there beside you. You got him on your show. You paid the dime to fly him out during his book tour or whatever and booked him so he can come on your show. There are no egos on the Pivot podcast. And that's where it comes into play. Oh, Brandon was mad when he saw that. He said, why I think the Pivot podcast is going to be successful is because we don't have egos here. There's no egos. Everybody here is selfless. That's why we here. It's not going to be messy. We were over there. You know what I mean? None of us had those egos. And we all know about people with egos. And Brandon Marshall has an ego. He's kind of a narcissist. Now, I know that from other people that played with him. Former athletes who have played with Brandon Marshall have said, yeah, tremendous ego. If only that ego could get on that field and perform like that every week, we would have no problems. But his ego is divisive ego. He comes in and separates. It don't bring people together. It separates. So that type of what he's doing doesn't help anybody. Hit the like button, good people. Yeah, it don't help anybody the way that you move. If you moving like If you moving like a clown, they gonna treat you like a clown. If you moving like in such a way that's so weird, other people are not gonna gravitate to it. They just not. There's no mystery why Brandon Marshall had played for all those teams and fell out with all those people. There's no mystery to it. There's no mystery as to why all of those guys and them end up splitting up. There's no mystery. Yeah, there was no mystery to it. You knew what the problem was. The DV charge made him have to go. He had to go all the way over to get these classes, and yeah, that's what made it a problem, when they all had to go and get those classes and get put on the same, playing field. Mm. Well, if you look at it from that point of view, then it might be a little different. But I'm saying for the people that's there, who's like, yeah, well, you got to look at the situation for what it is. I don't have nothing against Brandon Marshall. I'm just pointing out the facts. This is why when we saw you at Cubby Bear that time, you was freaking out because your girl had to go back to California to do a job, and she couldn't be there for the whole week. And you saying she didn't have to leave that right then and there. She could just take a later flight. It's like, dog, she's not leaving you. She's only taking a flight. What are you even tripping about? And your blow up was like super tantrum style. So the Bears players knew how you were. I don't know what to think. I could just tell you what I know. I have no idea. No, Brandon Marshall. Look, Brandon Marshall has been in therapy for that. He hasn't had another episode since that we know of. So I wouldn't say he didn't change. But Brandon Marshall's problem is ego. He has a lot of it. He has a big heart. I'm not going to say he don't have heart. He has a really big heart for people. And sometimes, though, it gets jaded by his own ambition and things going his way. He's the type that it got to go his way, and that's that. Even when he was on the show, when they had the I Am Athlete, he was always gotta let people know it's his show. So he just would cut people off, get loud, jump up, stand up, pound the fist. He gotta let people know it's his show. Like, this is my show. I run this. And trying to stand out over the other guys. Now, if you watch the energy level with Ryan Clark and his guys, it's entirely different. That energy level is completely different in how it's applied. And it brings out the better. They have a better show. Y'all people like some people like a lot of screaming. And they like, oh man, this show was good because they was hollering at each other on this one. That don't necessarily represent a good show. It just meant these people were hollering at each other. That's it. Now, here's a major problem in this scenario. The problem in the scenario is this. When someone doesn't see eye to eye with you, what is it that you try to hide or cover up or bring into the equation? Channing will never work with Brandon Marshall again because it's a respect factor. And when you don't have a respect factor, it is what it is. Hey, okay, we got bigger kids. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Cool. Ain't no teenagers do this now. So, yeah, I had a bag of candy. They lucky. I had a bag of candy in the pantry over there. They just lucky I had it. So I brought it out and just started handing it to the little kids. They just kept coming up to the door. So, but yeah, I don't like celebrate Halloween. Yeah, but see, Shannon and all these guys, they told him they've been doing their show for years now. Brandon Marshall has always been loud. It's like every year he talks about it. What is you talking about? Every year Brandon Marshall is talking about how they broke up. I mean, seriously. every year they talk about how they broke up.
I say what I say, but I really talk like this. If you catch me acting different, he's like, this is how I talk. He said, can I have a job? He said, this is my personality. If you catch me putting this on, then you can be annoyed with me because I'm doing something. I'm not being somebody.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. So Stephen A. Smith and like the Skip Bayless of the world changed the game from a broadcasting, covering sports standpoint. Journalism, you're not going out there and critique, like talking about the person, the athlete, the person of the athlete. You're not going out there talking about the X's and O's because you don't know the X's and O's.
So you're saying they're not talking X's and O's, but they don't go over the X's and O's and they don't know it. Well, if that was the case and they didn't know the X's and O's, why in the world, right? If they don't know the X's and O's, why in the world are you guys not bringing that up to them when they right there and you interview them? Because you had him on your show. And if he didn't know the X's and O's, you should have told him right to his face. Dude, you don't know the X's and O's.
Okay? So they went out there, boom, it turns into first take, and they start putting all this color in the game.
Yeah.
Right? And so they, it's like they start talking about things that, and it's not, this is not about Stephen A, it's about the industry. So
it's not about Stephen A, it's about the industry. So he's letting you know right now, I'm not talking about you, Stephen A. I'm talking about everybody else. Why? What makes Stephen A so exempt? I'm gonna eat my own damn candy. Hell, I paid for it. But what makes Stephen A so exempt? Yeah. Hello. All right.
Thank you.
I'm dropping you a good one. I'll give it to you. All right. Man, times is rough. Teenagers out here trick or treating. I'm gonna have to eat this candy up so I can say no more candy. But what makes Stephen A so exempt? Brandon Marshall, you sat there and gave this man an out. You gave Stephen A an out and not holding him accountable, but you want to go after Shannon Sharpe because you're mad Shannon Sharpe and Ocho are working together. That's what this is about. You mad Ocho left you and ended up finding the time. He told you it was just the travel. He couldn't do it no more. And now you see him doing what he's doing with Shannon Sharpe, and they doing it FaceTime. So they're not even in each other's location, and that Nightcap thing is way more successful. And it's got a trajectory to do big numbers. Now, you starting to see it and you're getting jealous and think your brother turned his back on you. Because now here come that narcissistic energy, Brandon, that you have and you possess, that you've always possessed. You're a narcissistic person, bro. You just don't see it. Because you don't want to see it. You're a narcissistic person. You don't see that. Mm-hmm. He sat down with Nick Wright and did that show First Things First. Nick Wright is just as bad as anything I've ever seen. Skip Bayless is way better than him. But you sat there and let that man tear down Kobe Bryant's legacy, and you battled with him every day. He didn't know the X's and O's. He only knew stats. And then hypotheticals. And you sat there and debated with that man on Fox Sports 1 the whole time. So when you keep talking about the industry, you were a part of that industry. So you can't exclude yourself, Brandon. You were a part of that industry. As much as you want to take yourself out, you can't.
Adding more sauce to sports.
Too much color.
And so people's opinions, they get asked, like I got into it with somebody on my show, and they're like, this quarterback sucked. I'm like, why does quarterback suck? Because he threw this interception. I said, why did he throw the interception? And they couldn't tell me why he threw the interception. But any, body who know like football and that person's job would say, like, actually I wasn't on the quarterback, it was on the receiver. The receiver actually ran the wrong route. So the quarterback,
same thing with the Bears game.
The 5-step drop, he looked the safety off, then threw it to the right. If he ran the right route, it would have been a touchdown instead of an interception. Mm-hmm. But what we see in media is that you suck, the quarterback threw the interception, but the reality is it's on a wide receiver.
Exactly. And the same thing I said in the Bears game. It's on the wide receiver. But you don't know football. You only see that the quarterback threw the interception. So I was saying that the other night with the Bears quarterback when, what's his name, DJ Moore ran the wrong route. He ran out when he's supposed to go to the sideline, and then it ended up being an interception. And I was trying to explain to him, I was like, when you see the quarterback throw the ball directly to the defender, 9 times out of 10, there's a miscommunication. Someone ran the wrong route, and they had the wrong information, or they got the wrong play. That was not supposed to happen in that fashion. Someone went the wrong way, not the quarterback threw the ball wrong. Oh, he threw the ball wrong. That's a bad pass. A bad pass is when a guy is right there to catch the ball and the ball's sailing over his head, or the ball's not in the range of being caught. That's a bad ball. It's things you know from being around football. You know the sport. But when you just somebody who watch it on TV, you're not going to get it. Gavin's young, so I understand him not knowing. But, us who've been watching it 30, 40 years, we should know the difference. Thank you, Steven. I appreciate it. Yes, the super chat button works, definitely. You can super chat, like the video. We want you to like the video, like it up so it can go higher and climb to the ceiling. Yeah, it's a lot of things that's transpiring. You have, like you say, with the situation now, it sounds more like bitterness from Brandon Marshall. He's trying to trend, he's trying to get out there, but it's more bitterness with him than anything else that I'm hearing. He's got a big ego. He's going to end up driving people away because of his ego. He's going to have to figure it out one day. But his whole thing is figuring it out is I want to get to the money. And I want to get next to this guy. I want to get next to that person. I want to get next to this person. That's his job. That's his way of figuring it out. What is the main drive of the story? What is the main goal? What is their main, what is that needful thing? Did he ever say why he walked away from Fox Sports 1? Oh, I walked away from that. Oh, you did, huh? Why did you walk away, sir? Can you enlighten the public why you walked away from Fox Sports 1 and didn't re-sign back with them? It wasn't because of the direction they were going in, was it? No, couldn't be that. What would be the reason for you, sir, not going back to Fox Sports 1? Is it because they kept telling you? Every time they closed the show out, you decided that it should be you that closed the show out and not Nick Wright. You wanted to be that second chair right next to Nick. You thought the show should be you and Nick Wright. They didn't feel this way of making you that guy, as they were trying to do a fill out to see who should be the guy in the second chair. And they realized, we're going to have a problem here because you don't like to play ball. The show was going to be Nick Wright's. He was going to be first chair, and everybody else was going to have to revolve around that. That's what happened, people. That's what happened with Brandon Marshall at Fox Sports 1. Ego. If you don't believe me, go watch any episode of First Things First when he was on there. Go fast forward to the end of the show. Watch what happened. You don't even have to believe me. Watch what happened. Fast forward it to the end and watch what happens. You want me to tell you what happened? I can easily tell you what happens. You're going to hear Brandon Marshall talk up the time. No one else going to get to say a final word, because Brandon Marshall is going to talk up all the time. They don't even get to say, the transition into the next show. Brandon Marshall is going to talk over even the moderator. So, I just turned the goddamn thing off. Now, if you know that's the case, you know that's the scenario. So why would you even think or trying to change it to mean something that it isn't? What's done is done. What's understood don't need to be re-spoken. Nah, man. Yes, sir. Fox don't like angry black Negroes. Okay? Let's just get that into perspective. Fox do not care for angry black Negroes. Chris Carter got angry, they fired him. Shannon Sharpe got angry, they fired him. Brandon Marshall didn't like the way things were going, they weren't going to re-sign him. So just so y'all would know, it's not bull. You know what I'm saying? It's not some BS that people have made up. This is situations, and they never say. Well, Chris Broussard, you know, he's looking weird as hell now that he didn't dye his hair to try to. They got him dyeing his hair to try to look young. He got like red on the top, looking like damn Wolverine up there. And they got Nick Wright up there looking like he's Jesus. He went from bald to a hippie. Jesus don't look like that. Yeah, Jesus do. Not the Messiah, but Jesus do. Yahshua, he don't look like him. But this Jesus fella, yeah, kind of resembles him. That's another discussion. That's for the Patreon. Yes, that's who the person is in the painting, yes. But the person he's representing was a name that was created in Greek by the Greek. They mixed in, their religion with Christianity. So their mythology of Athena and all these people, they transcended the stories on and mixed them up with the Christian religion, with Christianity. So now, instead of Zeus, we now have Jesus or Jesus, who ends up being Jesus as its proper pronunciation. Jesus. And you'll see all the people from Greek mythology are the same type of characters and the same type of roles that are into the Christianity. It'll blow your mind, right? Now, that's taking us way off. Now, to have those type of conversations, that has to be on the Casino for Life Patreon. We'll take you more down the rabbit hole, and you'll start to see how a lot of things don't add up. Who are the children of Nod? That's what you need to ask yourself. N-O-D. Who are the people of Nod? Where did they come from? He said London. It's a good one, but this is before there was a London. This is the story of Adam and Eve. Let's go about the story of Adam and Eve, right? God created Adam and Eve. They were the only two people on earth. She bit the apple, this and that, you know. Let's fast forward the story, right? So, Adam was the first man created. Eve was the first woman created. The first child was who? Who was the first child? The firstborn. Who was the firstborn child? The firstborn child of this world is who? Okay, so we know Cain and Abel's here, right? So anyway, we got Cain and Abel. And Cain was looked at as the bad one and always did things wrong. Abel was the good one who always seemed to do everything right. Cain gave an offering for God that was really small and pitiful. And Abel gave a great offering to God. And God blessed Abel because Cain's offering showed he was not giving his best to God. He was only thinking about himself. And then Cain slew his brother Abel. When God accepted Abel's offering and not his. And that drove him insane. Drove him to murder. Now that this has been the storyline, right? And it has been preserved. So we could do math. First man and woman, Abel, Cain, he made Adam and Eve. Man and woman, first man and woman on earth. Then came Cain and Abel. Cain took out Abel, so now they down to one. They had another kid, and his name was Seth. Cain had to leave the forest, right? They told him he had to leave the Garden of Eden. He said, I don't want to go out there. What if somebody try to take me out? He's like, oh, they won't touch you. I'm going to put this mark on you. Bang, bang, bang. Put a sign on him, a logo to say, don't nobody touch this dude. He didn't messed up. But why would he have to put a logo on him if they were only people on earth? What was he scared of if they were the only people on earth? So when he goes out, he stumbles into some people in the land of Nod, where he found his wife. He found a wife and had his own family and children in the land of Nod. He married a woman in the land. Where the hell these people come from? If Adam and Eve didn't make these people, where the hell they come from? He just stumbled around until he found a wife in the land of Nod. Something's not right with this storytelling. I mean, that's a pretty big jump. Jesus in the Bible, he goes from like age 4 to like age 30 in like an instance. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. He goes from a baby to age 30. What in the world going on here? What happened to the other years? Where are those pages? What happened? Did he age overnight? It's a heck of a puberty jump. So, a lot of these discussions we'll be having on the Patreon this month. Well, the month that's coming up in November. So we'll go from there. Brandon Marshall need to read some of those books. But I'm out. Shouts out to Kwame Brown, Bus Life, Ticket TV. Welcome to HD, IITV, Jag Sports, Jose Rodriguez. Carcino is gone.